with the technical assistance today on the webinar. Just to let you all know, you're all muted and you have the capability of sending your questions over in your questions box that will be in your control panel, or we call it a dashboard, and the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. If there's any other technical issues or things with sound, you can use your chat box for questions to communicate with me, and I'll try to talk to you. Just to let you know that there will be, the presentation will be available, and they can go into that further about how the presentation will become available to you, and also a recording of it will go up on the DFSS YouTube channel. Other than that, I just welcome everybody for attending today, and I'll let Elaine introduce herself again since we had some more people just join the webinar since we started.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I am Elaine Millsap-Parker, Assistant Director in Children's Services Division. And joining me today for a portion of this presentation will be Julia Tauber. She will talk about the application tips and the eProcurement system. I will be giving an overview of the program design and management scope of services for this particular RFP. Today we will focus on, we've done our introductions. We're going to have the program design and management RFP review, and then again we'll answer any questions at the end of the presentation. The Chicago Department of Family and Support Services is comprised of 8 divisions, including Children's Services Division. The Department of Family and Support Services was brought into ordinance in 2009. The various divisions that you see here: Youth Services, Domestic Violence, Workforce Services, Veteran Services, Homeless Services, Senior Services, Human Services, and Children's Services, were separate departments prior to 2009. The Department of Family and Support Services serves as the social service arm of DFSS of the City of Chicago. Children's Services Division is our Chicago Early Learning Programs, where we serve families, children and families across the City of Chicago through over 100 sites, over 100 delegate agencies through 351 sites. Next slide, please. In 2016, DFSS launched its strategic framework with a refreshed mission and department-wide priorities. Our mission is working with community partners. We connect Chicago residents and families to resources that build stability, support their well-being, and empower them to drive. Our priorities go across 4 areas, and that is to deliver and support high-quality, innovative, and comprehensive services that empower clients to thrive. As we collaborate with community partners, sister agencies, and public officials on programs, policies, and procedures that improve Chicagoans' lives and advance the systemic change, as well as to inform the public of resources available to them through DFSS and its partners, and to be good stewards over the resources that the department receives, and to be stewards responsibly and effectively. Children's Services Division manages all Chicago community-based Chicago Early Learning programs in the City of Chicago. DFSS seeks to ensure that these programs offer comprehensive and high-quality services for all children and families enrolled in these programs. Children's Services Division's efforts to build this strong system of services are guided by the following 3 priorities: to maximize access to high-quality early learning programs by matching investments to meet the needs of local communities and reduce the barriers for children for entry for children and families. Our second priority is to improve the comprehensiveness and the quality of early learning across all programs to ensure that children and families' needs are met, and to create a strong system of service providers by increasing support and reducing the administrative burden for community-based providers of early learning. DFSS serves vulnerable families in low-income communities and provide high-quality, developmentally appropriate services that wrap around the child and the family. We engage the parents and understand that in order to support them, we must recognize they belong to families who live in communities. Chicago Early Learning sites are in those communities and funded by DFSS to run programs like the Federal Head Start program and the state-funded Preschool for All program and Prevention Initiative programs. As such, all of our programs must meet all the performance standards and regulations that's associated with the federal and state grants that we receive. Next slide, please. Program Design and Management Services. Currently, DFSS contracts with a network of over 100 direct service agencies. These are our Chicago Early Learning programs across 350 sites that implement program models designed to meet the needs of local Chicago communities. Programs may be delivered through center-based licensed family child care homes and home-based home visiting models, and may operate full or part year. Children's Services Division uses support service providers with particular areas of expertise to supplement its management of programs and to provide training and technical assistance to a variety of audiences, which may include DFSS and CSD staff, direct service delegate agencies and their sites, and program parents and families. It should be noted that support service subject matter experts will not deal directly with the children and families, but would rather provide consultation and training and technical assistance to leadership, managers, and direct service staff. Our support service delegate agencies have specialized knowledge, expertise, and/or credentials that support our Chicago Early Learning direct service delegate agencies and their management teams. DFSS uses support service delegate agencies to ensure that the Chicago Early Learning programs and their management meet three broad objectives. That is the implementation of best practices in the early childhood development and education and related fields, and the organization infrastructure of the agency, compliance with relevant federal, state, and local performance standards and requirements, and improve outcomes for young children and their families, and organizational stability. Next slide, please. So under the program design support services scope, under this proposal, the department is seeking a support service delegate agency provider that can assist CSD and its direct service agencies, sites, and partners to achieve the following priorities. 1, to strengthen program design and management systems, including relevant policies and procedures that ensure each organization has a functional infrastructure that meets the Chicago Early Learning 2.0 standards and the Head Start performance standards, the ISB, Illinois State Board of Education standards, as appropriate across its network of direct service delegate agencies, sites, and partners. For individual agencies and sites that fail to meet CSD's monitoring performance measures. And 2, to develop innovative and effective practices for improving organizational health and infrastructure at direct service delegate agencies that results in enhanced program quality and agency performance due to their program design and management systems. Program Design and Management Support Services Staffing. The Program Design and Management Support Service Delegate Agency will be required to develop and deliver training sessions and provide training and technical assistance and consultation in the area of program design and management to DFSS and its direct delegate agencies. To ensure that DFSS and its direct service delegate agencies meet the program design and management related requirements listed in the program rationale and context section of the RFP. DFSS intends to contract with one entity to provide services citywide that can meet the following required qualifications and conduct the following required activities. Successful respondent must meet the following qualifications. The program design and management subject matter expert and the project manager must have, at a minimum, a bachelorette degree and experience in organizational development, fiscal management, data management, and program administration. Equivalent bachelor degree options are in nonprofit management, public, and/or business administration. The subject matter expert and the project manager must have experience in early learning program development and experience with working with federal and state funds that serve low-income populations. The identified program manager, project manager, must have experience in project management and will serve as the point of contact for the content-specific projects related to the scheduling and coordination of services and activities. Lead subject matter experts must have, as applicable for assigned, experience in program design and management systems that include program monitoring and continuous quality improvement, managing facilities and learning environments, transportation, communication, planning, eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance, as well as the organizational integration of all management components. Head Start program governance experts must have experience working with parent groups and governing bodies. These are board of directors or board of trustees. The subject matter expert must demonstrate and have an understanding of the Head Start governance structure and requirements, as well as have experience in parliamentary procedures, implementation, meeting decorum, and board best practices and requirements. The lead subject matter expert for fiscal management must demonstrate extensive knowledge of fiscal operations in an early childhood setting and have a minimum of 5 years fiscal management experience. A CPA is preferred but not required. The human resources subject matter expert must have credentials in human resources, program administration, or related field. DFSS prefers someone with experience with early childhood programs and staff wellness. The data management expert must have credentialed or demonstrated background in informational technology, data systems, data software, or data entry. The program design and management support service provider, the staffing also must be able to demonstrate the staffing subcontractor capacity and credentials to conduct the services and activities required of this contract, including having on staff or under contract support subject matter experts who demonstrate expertise and credentials in organizational development, fiscal management, data management, program administration, human resources management, collaborative governance, and other management components listed above. The PDM staff must also be able to demonstrate a working knowledge of one or more of the following and demonstrate the capacity to acquire expertise in all of the following: program design and management, program design and management requirements, for Chicago Early Learning programs, including the Head Start Act, including the Head Start Program Performance Standards, the Chicago Early Learning Standards 2.0, the Illinois Early Learning Standards, the Illinois State Board of Education Standards, and the Department of Children and Family Services Licensing Standards. Successful PDM responders must also have the experience and knowledge in the following: management systems, organizational design, and risk management. Previous experience working with organizations in designing and strengthening internal controls, including program, fiscal, facilities, and data management policies and procedures. Successful responders must have a familiarity and compliance with data quality and security best practices, including protecting all personal protected information, HIPAA information, and FERPA requirements. Successful responders must also have experience in providing T&TA. Excuse me, I forgot to turn my phone off. My apologies. Successful responders must also have experience in providing T&TA to adult learners on topics related to program design and management systems components, and have the ability to understand the use of the database that DFSS uses for program monitoring. Support service provider required activities. In the RFP, there are 9 component areas of required activities. The first one is parent involvement in program governance. Successful respondents will be required to provide trainings for parents in the parent's role in program governance, develop and provide direct service delegate agency sample materials for parent involvement in parent committees, policy committees, and on policy council, as well as to conduct workshop sessions at the annual Chicago Early Learning Parent Conference. 2, program design and management subject matter experts will work with agencies and partner sites to provide guidance on program management related policies and procedure development, and policy memorandum related to best practices, subject area research, and program requirements and standards. They will be expected to consult with DFSS to provide clarity on program components, service expectations, program requirements, and standards. They will also be expected to inform DFSS and its direct service agencies on current and new issues as they relate to the organizational health and management systems components. The support service provider will also be expected to attend program design and management quarterly meetings that address ongoing issues and trends related to the management systems faced by DFSS and its direct service delegate agencies, and will be expected to provide monthly reports to DFSS regarding the service to agencies and agencies' progress. Third required activity as training and/or workshops. The support service provider will develop and provide training and workshops for direct service delegate agency, grantee staff, and parents on the program requirements that are based on program design and management best practice. Meeting the training requirements consists of creating and providing training workshop materials, creating and providing access to training workshop webinars, webcasts, and/or training modules. The support service provider is required to provide, at a minimum, 5 trainings per year in each of the following component areas and key training topics which may be modified in the future. The following component areas are development and enhancement of management systems, program governance, fiscal management, data management, facilities and safe environments, ERSEA, which is the eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance, and other as-needed program design and management training sessions that have been identified in the grantee's annual training and technical assistance plan and from monitoring trends. Training focus for each of these component areas are found in the RFP under this section. These training and workshop sessions typically have, at a minimum, 40 to 50 participants. Trainings that are provided virtually may have more participants than if the session was held in person. Multiple training sessions, workshops may need to be delivered twice within a conference setting. 4, intensive training and technical assistance. The support service provider will provide DFSS, Chicago Early Learning, direct service delegate agencies with additional support in addressing implementation and compliance challenges that are systemic and impact an entire program and design and management system. The TNTA provider will meet with DFSS to discuss the performance of agencies requiring TNTA. These meetings with DFSS are typically convened for about an hour and 30 minutes to 2 hours. The support service provider will work with DFSS to develop training plans, corrective or quality improvement plans, and tailored training plans for the direct service agencies, their sites, and partner sites. Activities of intense TNTA must include meeting with the Chicago Early Learning Delegate Agency to assess their current systems and set improvement goals and objectives, as well as working with the Chicago Early Learning Delegate Agency to determine relevant action steps and appropriate timelines in a quality improvement plan, captured in a quality improvement plan. Provide training, coaching, and other resources to improve the quality of service provided as dictated by the objectives of the quality improvement plan, and provide follow-up TNTA as necessary to ensure the agencies continue to meet the content area program standards. Number 5, short-term training and technical assistance. The support service provider will work with direct service delegate agencies and partner site staff to provide short-term technical assistance to strengthen program design and management system components to ensure compliance with the Head Start Performance Standard, the Head Start Act, SAILS 2.0, the Illinois State Board of Education Administrative Rules, Federal Uniform Guidance as directed by DFS staff. These short-term TNTA sessions may have a duration time frame of less than 30 to 45 days. 6, DFSS monitoring reviews. The support service provider will assist DFSS in funder monitoring review preparations by providing support to the agency's monitoring review document to ensure that the agency's monitoring review documents are organized and conducting mock interviews sessions with DFSS and delegate agency staff. 7, support new DFSS direct service delegate agencies as applicable. The support service provider will support DFSS in developing onboarding procedures for new direct service delegate agencies and DFSS staff. 8, data management support. The support service provider will assist CSD in tracking and resolving issues related to the enrollment of children and families into CSD's data management system. The support service provider is expected to address and resolve concerns and issues with enrolling children in their program, removing children off the electronic application recruitment list, and closing out tickets and reporting to DFSS. The support service provider is expected to be available when needed for the duration of the program year to address and resolve ticket issues and support DFSS's Chicago Early Learning agencies with TNTA support. The support service provider will provide dashboard support by assisting DFSS with the automation of raw data for analytics and visualization that would help DFSS make informed decisions about the program. Additional consulting projects. DFSS may require special projects to assist with the special program initiative as identified through data and identified trends, such as enrollment, recruitment, and complying with new funder requirements. Prior to conducting any additional PDM consulting services, the selected support service provider will be required to provide a formal quote, written and approved by the commissioner and or her designated provider in advance of any services being provided. For all other services, only the approved unit rates in the RFP pricing proposal will be accepted. So once you read the RFP under the support service provider required services, there's a lot more detail and information as it relates to the expectation of delivering these activities to DFSS as a support service provider. So please make sure that you read the whole RFP, but read this section of the RFP very thoroughly as it relates to the required activities expectations. Performance measures. The Program Design and Management Support Service Delegate Agency is required to develop and deliver training sessions and provide technical assistance and consultation in the area of program design and management to DFSS, direct service, Chicago Early Learning agencies in order to improve direct service agency performance and compliance with the Head Start performance standards, the Illinois Early Learning Standards, and the Chicago Early Learning Standards 2.0. As such, performance outcomes may be assessed in the following manner. Direct service agency compliance with the federal regulations listed here after receiving intensive TNTA from the support service provider and through pre and post training surveys that assess the impact of training on attendee knowledge and implementation. To monitor and recognize intermediate progress toward the above performance indicators, DFSS also intends to track output metrics that include but are not limited to the number of trainings provided to DFSS by the Direct Service Delegate Agency that is reported bi-monthly, every other month to DFSS, the number of hours of intensive TNTA provided to DFSS identified direct service delegate agencies to strengthen their program structure and ongoing monitoring systems reported monthly, the number of hours of program design and management consultation provided to DFSS, including but not limited to committee meetings attended, prepared for, policies and procedures reviewed, and program management related memos submitted and distributed to internal and external stakeholders. Number of hours provided to PDM quarterly meetings, number of tickets resolved each month, number of parent trainings conducted, number of board trainings conducted, number of hours of TNTA to individual delegate agencies as assigned to strengthen program design and management components with a minimum of 2 hours per agency or site per month. Number of monthly check-ins with DFSS's project manager. Next slide, please. The pricing proposal. The pricing proposal is laid out and based on the PDM RFP required training and consulting activities, and it has a non-federal share match. I would just like to show you a copy of the pricing proposal at this time.
All right, Elaine, this is Tom. I'm going to pull up your spreadsheets you provided to me and just tell me how to navigate through this.
Okay. Can you make it a little larger, please?
Oh, sure.
So this is
How
what
does that look?
our pricing proposal looks like. The sales are locked with the exception of the unit rate. And so you will see here in the left-hand column, the grantee and delegate agency training. It lists out the quantity, the unit of measure, your unit rate, which will, once you put your unit rate in, it will calculate into the extended column. As you go down and complete the cost proposal, can you please scroll down, Tom? You will see you will have a subtotal for the trainings. And then as we go into the consultation fields, you will see that we have for our consultation services, we have a quantity in hours, the total number of hours, the unit of measure, you will put in your rate, and then it would calculate in column 21, in row 21, column E, it will calculate the price. And then it will give you a subtotal of both the trainings and the consultation fees. Please note that where we talked about additional consultative services at $50,000 is at $50,000. You cannot add an additional cost to that. That cost is embedded into the overall cost pricing proposal. You will see indicators as it relates to the administrative costs. And can you scroll down some more, Tom? You will also see the messaging as it relates to the non-federal share match. The anticipated projected budget is between $850,000 to $900,000. The anticipated term of the contract is expected to be from December 1, 2020 to November 30th, 2022. And that's for the Head Start funded allocation, and December 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2022 for the Early Childhood Block Grant funded allocation. DFSS may extend this term for up to 1 additional year for each extension not to exceed 1 year. So those are the basis of the contract and funding. Next slide, please. Required documents. So there are several legal documents that we are asking you for if you decide to submit your RFP, such as your articles of incorporation, your liability insurance, your board roster, resumes, plans of action. We ask that when you submit these documents, when you upload these documents, we ask that you make sure that all of your documents are complete, that they are accurate, that they are current, that they are valid, and that they are legible. Please be mindful that the PDM RFP submission deadline is 12 noon on Thursday, August the 13th. The system will automatically close exactly at 12 noon on Thursday, August 13th, 2020. I'll now turn it over to Julia. Oh, I'm sorry. And then the PDM Support Service resources. And so these are the federal regulations that you can review to help you get a full understanding of the Chicago Early Learning Program standards related to the program design and management RFP. The Chicago Early Learning Standards 2.0 can be found on the city's website under Children's Services, Chicago Early Learning Manual. The Head Start Performance Standards and the Head Start Act, which includes Section 1301, Program Governance, 1302, subparts A, B, I, and J as relates to program operations, the Illinois Department of Family and Support Services website as relates to administration and staffing, the Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principle, and Audit Requirements, as well as Code of Federal Regulations Part 200. What I am seeing is not on here is our link to the Illinois Board of Education administrative rule. I have to provide a link for that.
Hey, hi, Elaine, this is Tom. Julie, if you could just mute yourself. I think Elaine has 1 or 2 more slides left.
Yes.
Okay.
Elaine, go ahead.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Okay, the most important part. I can't forget to talk about the selection criteria, right? So as part of our selection criteria, there are 4 sections that we will be scoring from. The entire RFP is worth 100 points, and they fall in the following categories. Selection criteria as relates to strength of the proposed program. So the respondent has to clearly define the program design and management services to be provided to the delegate agency's programs through the provision of training and technical assistance that are appropriate to addressing needs of and achieving the desired outcomes for the targeted populations. The applicant's proposed program is supported by a strong national or local evidence-based and/or aligns with best practices for program design and management. The applicant demonstrates a clear understanding of the target population and their needs and challenges. This section is worth a maximum of 30 points. The second selection criteria area is program management and outcomes. You would have to demonstrate evidence of a strong past performance against desired outcome goals and performance matrix and other notable accomplishments in providing services to the targeted population. The respondent must provide an example of a positive change that resulted in improved management systems for a client or program. The applicant must also have experience using data to inform and/or improve its services or practices, and have the relevant systems and processes needed to collect and store key participant and performance data. Program management and outcomes criteria selection is worth a maximum of 30 points. Organizational capacity. The potential responder must be able to describe relevant staff positions and qualifications, must be able to explain how the organization monitors program expenditures and ensures appropriate fiscal controls and records are in place, and must have policies and procedures that include hiring practices and the ability to fill essential positions in a timely manner. This section is worth a maximum of 30 points. Reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds. The agency should have the financial capacity to operate the program. The potential responder must also have cash flow and the capacity to extend funds prior to reimbursement, matching funds, including in-kind contributions that can be used for this program. And the program, and you have to explain if your program costs are reasonable given the nature of services provided and the requirement for this program. The maximum criteria points for this section is 10 points. The RFP is due August 13th at 12 noon. It has to be submitted via our procurement system. No fax or email proposals will be accepted. I will now turn it over to Julia.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I'm going to just go through. I see, while generally we like to save the questions for the end, I see that there looks like one question here that says ECBG regulations. Elaine, before we get started to talk about the eProcurement thing, is there something that you can speak to in regards to what ECBG regulations are?
Yes, that's the early childhood block grant regulations. So when we reference the Illinois Early Learning Standards, and when we reference the Illinois State Board of Ed, ISBE, that's where those regulations are associated with the early childhood block grant.
I'm seeing here that there actually are a couple more. The first is, what database does DFSS currently use? In terms of a database, all of your applications have to be done in the eProcurement environment. In terms of a database for this particular, is there a database that's going to be used for this particular contract, Elaine?
For the purposes of the training and technical assistance as it relates to the requirement of the data management person to be able to understand the database that DFSS uses for monitoring, that data management system currently is what we call COPA, Child Outcomes for Planning Administration.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This next question is the expected contract price and annual amount, or for the life of the contract. I believe that is the annual amount. Is that correct, Elaine?
That is correct.
Great. Okay, so those were our 3 questions. We'll be taking more at the end of my presentation, but since there were just a few, I thought, why not just get them out of the way now? My name is Julia Talbot. You might have seen my name on RFPs because that's where you would see it. I manage the RFP process for the department for all of the different RFPs, and that means I sort of manage how it gets out the door, making sure people can do their applications correctly, working with different teams to do the valuations, make sure that those all stay above board, etc. So today I'm going to go through the eProcurement system, how to log into it, or how to get an account onto it if you don't already have one. We'll start that with the next slides. Some tips and about how to manage it, and then I'm going to go through two different things that you have to do during your application process in eProcurement. One is accept an amendment, and the other is to do the submission. So what I like to say is start early, save often with eProcurement. If you've never done business with the City of Chicago, you're going to need to register your organization into iSupplier or eProcurement as soon as possible. It takes the initial application is pretty simple, and then you'll get an email from the procurement department that allows you to log in. Sometimes that email takes up to 5 days to come back to you, 5 business days. So really, if you don't have that login yet, that I really highly encourage you to get that done now. I've been getting a number of phone calls or emails about this, that we cannot, and this refers to a little bit of what Elaine was saying a couple of slides ago. The City of Chicago is not able, we're physically incapable of entering into a contract with a business that is not registered with the federal government. You don't have an EIN or an FEIN number. So it's very important that you have those, that you have the actual ability to do business. If you do not currently have that, or you're waiting of a 501c3, I highly recommend that you partner with somebody or find a fiscal agent, have them make the application on your behalf, and you would come in under as a subcontractor or a partner, and that you would use their FIE number, because that's a real deal breaker if you don't have the ability to actually do business, because the City of Chicago, and this is for the entire city, this isn't my rule or the commissioner's rule, this is the city's rule. We can't enter into a contract with somebody who doesn't have a FIN number or a 501c3 if that's in fact the designation. You don't have to be a 501c3 to apply for this RFP, but if you're waiting on it, that's critical to your business plan, please look to find a fiscal agent. Pending is not, we can't do pending. It has to be, you have to have the paper in hand for us to be able to enter into a contract with you. So the other thing I like to tell people is, like, in terms of writing your applications, we spend a lot of time on developing good scopes, good application questions, clear selection criteria, and all of those things are interconnected and roll up into our evaluation tool. So I really encourage you to download the RFP, read the scope, look at the application questions, and remember that everything aligns. That if you're reading an application question and you just aren't sure what we're going at or what we need, what we're looking for, read the scope, because generally speaking, we're going to tell you what it is that we're looking for, and it's really what we want you to be able to do is then tell us how you're going to fulfill that need. What is your absolutely fantastic idea about how to do this better, more creatively, more efficiently, however, whatever your particular hook is. So just use the RFP to really guide you and help you in figuring out what your strongest point, what your strongest proposal is going to look like. Also, really look at that selection criteria. There's not a lot of it, but every application question relates to a specific criteria in the selection criteria, and all of our evaluation aligns with the selection criteria. So, it's pretty straightforward about if we say, what we're looking for in terms of giving guidance on where we're going with in terms of a stronger answer. The other thing I like to remind people is that there's a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces for each answer. It's not total, it's for each. So if the question is, what is your name? You have 4,000 characters to answer your name, which would be a very long name. On the other hand, if this, one of our application questions is, what is the meaning of life and how does it relate to Head Start? You have 4,000 characters, which includes punctuation and spaces, in which to provide an answer. We don't actually ask that question, though. eProcurement, it works best within the Internet Explorer browser. I have used it successfully with Chrome, with Firefox, with I guess, yeah, those are the two ones I've basically used it with, and it works fine. This platform really hasn't crashed in the 3 years that I've used it. So if you find that you are getting kicked out, that your stuff isn't getting saved, that you're having a lot of glitches and problems with working with eProcurement, chances are it has to do with your computer's finickiness in interfacing with the eProcurement system itself. It was built to work best on Internet Explorer, not my favorite browser, but I would suggest as a first start, that's where I would, if you're having problems with it saving, with it kicking you out, etc., you need to, I would put it in Internet Explorer and see how that works. Don't use the back button in scrolling in within the eProcurement environment. If you use the back button, what's going to happen is that it's not going to save any work that you do after you've hit that back button. And when you go to save it, it will just kick you out and probably laugh in a really evil way. So don't use the back browser button. The other thing I have when I work in eProcurement, which I do, pretty much all the time, is that, if you let it sit there, save frequently, and then if you let it sit, it's going to time out eventually. So if you let it sit there with your, and you forget to save, chances, it's sort of 50-50 as to whether it's going to save it for you or not. So just save all the time, and remember that it will time out after a while. I think it seems like it times out after about 10 minutes, maybe a little longer, but generally speaking, that's when it kicks me out. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the features that I really do like about eProcurement is that you're allowed to submit your application early, and you can amend it up until the due date. So when you hit submit, and I suggest that people do this, if only to get familiarity with the submission process. When you hit submit, it's submitted, and if then you're like, oh, I forgot to upload this thing, oh, I don't like my answer, oh, something has changed, you can pull your application back up until that August 13th, 12 noon deadline. That is super. I highly encourage people to do that. I highly encourage people to submit this thing early if they can. I have spent a lot of time watching people work down to the wire. The submission process is not just hit send and go. It takes up to, it can take 30 minutes if you have errors, which everybody sort of does. And so you have to, it is really, you need to just give yourself time. Give yourself time to do a good application. Give yourself time to submit. Have it be a relaxed, not rushed process. And, and call us or email us if you're running into problems. One of the things that Elaine says and that I say too is that August 13th deadline at noon is a hard deadline. We cannot submit any we cannot accept any late applications. We can't accept them in any other format besides eProcurement. We can't accept anything by fax. We can't accept anything by email. And the only way we can get you into the system post that deadline is for us to re-release the RFP. And we don't, that generally, we hate doing that, and we don't generally do that because one person missed the application. It has to be, there was something on our end that requires us to repost, and it's awful. So just please get your stuff in early. I like to say avoid the rush, but give yourself 30 to 60 minutes. That way you'll be relaxed, you'll hit send, you can go have a cup of coffee and be happy that you've done this. Late applications will not be accepted. Now, if you're running into problems, first of all, my email and phone number is it's all over this document, it's all over the RFP, it's easy enough to find. You can call me, you can email me. I try to get back to everybody within 24 hours. We also have a very great eProcurement hotline, which is 312-744-HELP, which is easy enough to remember. And then there's also customer support at cityofchicago.org, which is, you can email them. They will probably answer the phone. If you have to leave a message, which I really encourage you to do, they'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Just remember that the hotline operates during business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so if you're calling them on a Saturday, they are not going to get back to you until Monday at the earliest. So that is kind of what I have to say about the sort of doing your application. And so let's go and get into I think the next is, yeah, here we go. Here's the alerts. So it's, 744 help, customer support. We have a lot of great training materials on the procurement website. There's videos, there's training materials, all sorts of stuff. If you learn that, you learn stuff that's that way. I have a lot of PowerPoints that I've PDF'd over the years that I can send people with, helping them walk through some basic stuff with screenshots. And in fact, that's, sort of my intro to the next section. We're going to go through how to accept an amendment. So next slide, when you're going to log in. So here we go. The RFP you're interested in has been amended. And generally speaking, we do at least one amendment per RFP. Those amendments are for, if nothing else, to add the webinar and the frequently asked questions that are generated from the webinar. So if you haven't started an application, you are going to, you'll get this screen that says, warning, it's been amended. If you were to start the application, you would do the create quote and hit the go button. But first, before you can even start that, or if you're continuing an application, you're going to have to acknowledge and accept your amendment in order to get into the application questions. If you've already started, by accepting that amendment, by accepting the amendment is going to pull whatever you had done prior to the amendment being released into the newly amended RFP. What we really are very, one of the things you'll see when I walk you through these screens is that it's very important to us that you actually look at the amendment, or that you understand at the very least that you're going to be held responsible for the information that is shared in the amendment. So let's go to the next slide. To begin the acceptance process, you can open your RFP in the view only. So if you want to just look at the RFP, you can click on the document number, which is the RFP number. To review the amended changes to the RFP, you can click on number 2, which is that eyeglass icon. And once you have looked at those things, you're going to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes by clicking the Acknowledge Amendments button in number 3. So you're acknowledging that this begins, that you are acknowledging this, you're acknowledging that you have read the amendment, that you have complete mastery over what we have told you is changed. And then you'll see there's always a little like one-line description. So let's go to the next slide. Great. So when you click on that, the acknowledgement, you'll get a next screen that tells you that you need to accept the terms and conditions, which you do by clicking that ridiculously small box. That you accept the terms and conditions of the RFQ and acknowledge the changes made to the RFQ amendment. And then you're going to hit that acknowledge button on the right-hand side, which will take you to this next slide, which is a confirmation that you have acknowledged your amendment. So they're just the city is making sure that you have confirmed that you have acknowledged the amendment. And you will hit yes, and that will take you on your merry way to, let's see, the next slide I think is when we talk about, there's one more slide, sorry, I haven't, So here you have one more slide where you accept the following terms and conditions. You click the box, and this basically the terms and conditions are that you have read the amendment and you accept it. So you're going to click the small box on the lower left-hand side, and then you are going to click the accept button, which either is on the upper or lower right-hand side. And then you have accepted your amendment. You can start your application, or if you have already started your application, you can continue working on your application. So we're going to go to the next slide, which is how to submit an application. So after you've accepted your amendment, you have written a brilliant application. You have uploaded all of your uploaded things, and you are like ready to go. Of course, you're ready to go 24 hours before because you're all perfect. You're going to submit the application. So let's go to the next slide. So when you are ready to submit, you are going to start by saving your draft one last time. And you'll hit that you'll save the draft by hitting the Save Draft button, and then you will hit Continue. And after you continue, this will have the continue starts the submission process, and at that point, eProcurement sort of checks your entire application, and it will like say, hey, something's missing. So don't be surprised if you get these little error messages, which generally tell you kind of what's missing. So here's a very common one. You must quote at least one line in the RFQ. If you can see, we'll see in the next slide, right below that error message, there's a thing that says lines. You would then go into the lines tab, and you would put placeholder numbers into the lines tab because we're doing a cost proposal, but we still need to have those placeholder numbers in the lines tab so that if we move to contracting, we have those lines. But we don't use lines as part of our review. We look at your cost proposal. We don't look at what you put in the lines. You just need to put in something to get rid of the error message. So once you put in the lines, you'll save, and that error message will go away. Let's go to the next slide. I've done another common error. So here we have the error reads a quote value is required for requirement first name, and here the idea is quote value is eProcurement speak for the answer. The requirement is eProcurement speak for the question, and the name, first name is the name of the question itself. So in this case, we forgot to put our first name in. We've gotten, say, an error message saying that you haven't provided a quote value, haven't provided an answer for the requirement or the question entitled first name. So you're going to go and you'll find the requirement entitled first name. You will put in your first name, and then you will hit save and continue and be on your way. And let's go to the next slide. So once your application is free from errors, you are ready to proceed. And so at this point, when you go to click on save and continue, you'll end up with this review and submit phase, which is very exciting. At this point, the review and submit phase allows you to review your entire application and submit. So we'll go to the next slide. You'll see that this is in the review and submit phase. This is your opportunity to look at everything. You can see all the answers to all of your questions. It shows all of your attachments, which I'm sure you have labeled in a way that you know what you have submitted or you have uploaded. And it's sort of like one big long thing where you just keep scrolling down. And at the bottom of the page, of this very long page of answers, you will see the electronic signature, which is highly exciting. Okay. And that's this is where we're getting to the end of the submission process. So the electronic signature is sort of one of the last steps. You're going to put in your name, you're going to put in the title, and then you're going to check the box. I, of course, check the box first, but if you do that, somehow the system doesn't like it. So put in your name, put in your title, click the box, and then you will be able to hit submit. Let's go to the next slide. Submit button is on the lower right-hand side there, and you will submit. So you can see here there's a couple of other buttons. You can save the draft again if you want. I'm a compulsive saver, but you don't have to be. This thing, printable view, you want to if you want to have a printout of what you have put in to this system, do printable view. If you don't, once you hit submit, your application is put into eProcurement, and you don't really have access to your questions. So when we talked about the 4,000 character limit, I generally tell people, please do your, work out your 4,000 characters on like a word processing or, software that can count the character numbers for you. But I also recommend that you have your application as in a word processing document, so you actually have the answers. Because once you hit submit, those answers are put into eProcurement, and you don't seem to have access to the answers again, even if we award a contract. So I would go with the printable view. I would do a backup with a word processing document, and now you're ready. You hit submit, and that will take you to a submission confirmation screen. The eProcurement will send you a confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission, but you want to see that confirmation screen. if you are worried or just want to know, I have absolutely no problem. Please call or email me, and I am happy to confirm the application, your application. Like, you hit submit, and I can generally see it, and if I am more than happy to provide you with confirmation, and either verbally or email or both, if you don't want to wait for that submittal confirmation from the eProcurement system, or you're just worried. So that pretty much, I think, is the end of what I have to say about eProcurement. This is a time for us to take some questions, and just to thank you all for your patience and for coming to the RFP, or the webinar rather. I think we already covered all the questions that were from Elaine. So maybe we'll take a few minutes to see if anybody has any other questions. If you know that here are our emails, here are our phone numbers. I think Elaine's email here is missing a final P. Is that correct, Elaine?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's Elaine Millsap, not Milsa Parker. Which is something that we can now put in an amendment. Her email address is actually also all over the RFP itself. So let's see if there's do we have any other questions? I don't know.
Julia, this is Tom. It looks like starting at 4:08, there was 3 questions asked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing the questions.
So the first one says, when Elaine mentioned the requirement to submit a board roster, how does that requirement apply to for-profit entities?
Well, if you are a for-profit entity that does not have a board, then please just, as the requirement, say, just put in a little document and upload it saying that you do not have a board. That would be my advice for that.
The next,
I see here we are currently a support services provider for DFSS for parent engagement. Just making sure this is the appropriate RFP for us to apply to.
well, that's a decision you would have to make for yourself in partnership with your leadership team. We have not done a parent engagement RFP to date. Like, there are the other RFPs that we have released. Do you know if we're anticipating one that's specific to the work of the parent engagement, Elaine? Yes, we are.
Okay, so the answer would be that this is the PDM here is not the RFP for parent engagement activities. However, of course, we would be thrilled to have you apply for more. So if you are looking to continue your work as a parent engagement support service organization, that RFP will be coming out later. But in the meantime, if you'd like to try your hat, throw your hat into the ring for PDM, we'd be thrilled to have you. So here is a question. Will there be a list of attendees provided in the event that we potentially want to partner with other applicants? Yes, we can do that as part of our webinar, not a webinar, as part of the FAQs and the amendment. We'll do a list of attendees in there. Will there only be one entity funded? Yes, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, I believe that's outlined on like page 12 of the RFP. Yes, only one entity. And then, is there a current PDM provider?
Yes.
There is.
Yes, there is.
Yes. And then so that there is an incumbent provider. No, that incumbent does not get preference in any way. They have to compete like everybody else. Can you apply to more than one RFP? Yes, you may undoubtedly apply to more than one RFP. Will there be other RFPs offered like nutrition, disabilities, etc.? Yes. We have already released and closed nutrition, dental, mental health, and health RFPs, as well as community assessment. Currently, we have out PDM, professional development, and strategic communications. And then those are out on the street now. Their due dates are August 13th, or in the case of professional development, August 20th. But then I know that there are other RFPs in the hopper right now, but I don't know their specific names. I think one of them, do you know them? There's disabilities that will be coming up.
Disabilities, education, and family community partnership. Specialized services, and doula service.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that is that's that. Can we see, are there any other questions? I don't see.
There's one more that came in. I can read it. This is
Thanks.
Tom. Did the others go through the same process? Like, well, they said disabilities, but like they also said nutrition, etc.
Yes.
They are all of the RFPs are being vetted in this way. Like they all go through the RFP process, which is highly routinized and is exactly like this. So we try to keep the RFPs out for probably 5 or 6 weeks. And it's always, there's this release, there's a webinar, you have an opportunity to ask questions, and then you put in your application and we review them. So disabilities, we have not yet released. Nutrition, we already did. So do we see any other questions?
I don't see any other questions.
Great.
So if you have additional questions after you access the RFP through the eProcurement system, please give us a call or shoot an email, and we will generate the questions that have been asked here, and those questions that you put into a frequently asked question addendum for everyone.
Elaine, there is one more question. It says, what do you think the impact of the pandemic will be on services?
Well, one of the things that we know is that we know that a lot of the trainings that's being provided to our families and to our agencies have now been converted into virtual platforms to reach out to them. So when we look at it from in terms of training and technical assistant perspective, and these RFPs, that is what we're seeing that's happening. And so as these RFPs are executed into contracts December 1, we expect that a lot of our trainings will and our technical assistance services will be provided via a virtual platform.
And I believe that's all the questions you have now.
Well, thank you all so much for attending. We'll be working on providing the written answers to these questions as part of the amendment. We're really looking forward to seeing and reading your applications. And please, if you have questions, email myself or Elaine. Elaine is for programmatic questions. I'm much more on the, like, you know, how do I get eProcurement to do X, Y, or Z for me? And remember to save often, submit early, wear your mask, and be safe.
Thanks everyone for attending, and this concludes the webinar. Have a nice day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.